the pit of complacency that tempts mortals to set up camp in the place of their past successes. Some wise words to start the program from author and transformational leader Alvin Day. Perhaps you've become complacent. If so, start doing something about that today. Welcome to another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Audrey Williams. Glad you could join us. Coming up, we wrap up our review of Government on a Mission in 2013 by looking at the achievements of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Plus, as more water lockoffs are expected with the drought season upon us, we hear how some Jamaicans are conserving. An informative program awaits you. Stay with us.
A message from the Bureau of Gender Affairs and the Dispute Resolution Foundation, paid for by the UN Women Fund for Gender Equality.
Good day, I'm Stacey Ann Smith, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, January 28. Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller is expected to address issues of importance to Jamaica when she speaks at the second summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, in Cuba. The two-day summit opened in Havana Tuesday. Leaders from 33 member countries are discussing the struggle against hunger, poverty, and the inequalities in Latin America and the Caribbean. Intra-regional trade, sustainable development, and science and technology are also on the agenda. It's expected that the summit will result in members adopting the Havana Declaration. Ahead of the summit, Mrs. Simpson Miller and her delegation met with Cuban President Raul Castro at a welcoming ceremony held in her honor at the Palace of the Revolution in Havana. She also toured the newly constructed Special Economic Zone at the port of Mariel. National Security Minister Peter Bunting says outfitting police personnel with cameras will help to improve transparency and protect members of the force from false accusations. Speaking at the first Jamaica House press briefing for 2014, Minister Bunting said the move was also in line with the government's commitment to investigate extrajudicial killings and to preserve the integrity of the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
The purpose of this project is to 1. Improve the collection of evidence of criminal activity in an effort to prosecute and reduce such activity. 2. To improve the transparency of JCF activities when interacting with the public. 3. To encourage JCF officers to act in accordance with the force's professional standards, to include the appropriate use of force when applied. And fourthly, to create a record to protect JCF officers from unfair allegations of violations of JCF professional standards.
The minister said only select units within the force will wear the cameras, and the new policy will be implemented by the second half of 2014. In the meantime, the Police Federation, which represents rank and file police, has issued a statement saying they endorse the move in principle. Meanwhile, the National Security Ministry will be hosting its Unite for Change National Youth Violence Prevention Forum on Thursday, January 30 at the Jamaica Conference Center in downtown Kingston. Among other things, the conference aims to share best practices among stakeholder groups and introduce them to resources available to help in the fight against crime.
To establish a database of the capacity and the activities already underway in the violence prevention area. And finally, to develop a mechanism to coordinate action.
The ministry is also planning a number of regional forums for students and young people to hear their views and possible solutions to crime. Only one of the 30 roads rendered impossible during the January 19 and 20 rains in Portland and St. Mary remains to be cleared for traffic. Information Minister Senator Sandria Faulkner says the Springhead to Little Bay corridor in St. Mary is yet to be opened as it suffered a collapsed retaining wall which requires engineering designs before any work can be undertaken.
The initial cleanup cost for all the corridors is just over $33 million, while the preliminary estimate for the permanent works in St. Mary has been put at $125 million. This amount does not include the cost to carry out works on the Grandstown Road or that from Little Bay to Jacks River. Both of these corridors will need design details before the costs can be determined.
Construction is now underway for new headquarters to house the All Island Cane Farmers Association at Innswood in St. Catherine. When it's completed, the facility will benefit more than 3,000 cane farmers and accommodate 20 staff members. Agriculture Minister Roger Clark says the move is part of efforts to rebrand and restructure the association as it seeks to modernize the sector.
This should have a significant impact and become part of our plans to improve customer service throughout the sector.
And finally, even as the Office of the Children's Registry ramps up its public education campaign, there's another call for Jamaicans to join the fight against child abuse by reporting known or suspected cases.
Far too many children still continue to suffer in silence, and as a result of the negative circumstances that affect them. I urge you all to report all known or suspected cases of child abuse, or suspected cases of missing children.
The Children's Registrar was speaking recently at the agency's 7th anniversary church service held under the theme, Be the Change, Speak Out, Protect Our Children. His call was echoed by Bethel Apostolic's elder Clifton Black.
It is our mission, mandated not just by the government, but really by God, for us to love our children, protect them from hurt, harm, and danger.
The OCR has increased its availability to Jamaicans with the recent opening of an office at Shop 10 Hendon Plaza in Savlamar, Westmoreland. Another office is expected to be opened in St. Mary in the coming months. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stacey Ann Smith. Thank you for watching.
What are you doing to help the fight against crime?
Sitting on the corner, minding your own business, definitely not going to work.
It is time for us to unite.
Unite.
Unite for change.
Citizens coming together to make their respective communities safer. The police, schools, public health, business, churches, NGOs, parents and neighborhood watch volunteers.
As we, the police, do our job,
we as citizens need to do our part as well.
Report crimes or even suspicious activities.
Let's all work together
as one united front against crime.
and make Jamaica the place of choice to
live, work, raise families, and do business.
Unite for Change, an initiative of the Ministry of National Security. 2013 was a busy year for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Despite a few challenges, there was enhanced foreign relations near and far as Jamaica secured its diplomatic and trade interests. Get the scoop now in our final year in review in the series.
Advancing Jamaica's inclusive and proactive foreign policy and securing its trade interests abroad, a key task championed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in 2013 on a mission to maximize Jamaica's growth and development objectives.
We will continue to engage with all countries to explore opportunities for foreign direct investment, tourism growth, expanded trade and technical cultural cooperation.
The task of maintaining, strengthening, and capitalizing on Jamaica's diplomatic relations with other nations is the premier focus of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. With Minister A.J. Nicholson at the helm, it executed that task with renewed vigor in 2013. A historic milestone was reached as the governments of Jamaica and the Solomon Islands established diplomatic relations. Foreign relations were also strengthened with existing friends such as Brazil, where a Jamaican embassy was officially opened in Brasilia, as well as the United Mexican States, Germany, Japan, and the People's Republic of China, to which new high commissioners and ambassadors were appointed. Diplomacy with the African Union was elevated when Ambassador Carlton Masters was appointed Jamaica's first representative to the AU, and Ambassador Courtney Rattray was appointed permanent representative to the United Nations. The country and Foreign Affairs Ministry celebrated these and other mutually beneficial international friendships with the annual hosting of Diplomatic Week in February.
At the regional level, Jamaica continues to actively engage with our sister CARICOM territories in seeking to find solutions to long-standing impediments to trade.
As part of that, Minister Nicholson initiated critical engagements with his Trinidad and Tobago counterpart, Winston Ducaran. At a meeting in Kingston, they discussed broiling issues of trade imbalance and hassle-free movement for Jamaicans into that country.
Notwithstanding the fact that a significant number of Jamaicans have entered Trinidad and Tobago without any difficulty, and might I just pause, it's about 96%. We have agreed that the immigration authorities of both countries must cooperate in addressing allegations of profiling.
Local business leaders were also allowed to engage with the Trinidad delegation on matters of trade, and Minister Nicholson was invited to hold a second round of consultations in Port of Spain in the first quarter of 2014 to take stock and follow up on the trade and travel agreements and understandings reached in Kingston. But Trinidad was not the ministry's sole focus in 2013. Other CARICOM partners were engaged at the 24th intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government held in Port-au-Prince, Haiti in February. Among the issues discussed were the regional crime and security agenda, the Arms Trade Treaty, CARICOM's reform process, the regional architecture for financial stability, the CARICOM Regional Aid for Trade Strategy, and the region's preparations for the United States Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, FATCA. Meanwhile, Jamaica and other states formed an alliance for sustainable development through investment within the Caribbean and Latin America. That resulted from the first summit of the European Union and the Community of Latin America and Caribbean States, EU-CELAC. An expanded action plan was also adopted to strengthen South-South cooperation in various areas.
This fits in with our overall strategy to diversify the markets for our goods and services.
In 2013, Jamaica was also among 10 Caribbean countries to sign the first ever international treaty to regulate the trade of conventional weapons.
The discussions on an arms trade treaty are of major importance to Jamaica in curbing violence and strengthening national security.
Jamaica's diplomatic and trade relations were also strengthened with foreign states beyond the Caribbean waters in 2013. The ministry was integral to the execution of an official visit by Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller to China, where the Foreign Affairs Minister signed some important agreements on behalf of the government.
Her presence here in China is very, very important in cementing the important relationship and in ensuring that certain matters which have been on the way can be taken further at the highest level.
Ahead of that mission, Minister A.J. Nicholson promoted Jamaica's investment potential at the second annual Global Services Forum in Beijing. While there, he held bilateral talks with his Chinese counterpart. Later in the year, the Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Ministry helped to plan another successful mission to attract investors from the Asian continent.
Our collaboration has translated into a number of projects and programs in the areas of trade, economic and technical cooperation. These programs have complemented our national development goals, bringing significant benefits to the peoples of Jamaica and Japan.
Meanwhile,
the government continued to pay close attention to developments within the multilateral trading system that may constitute unfair and undue barriers to trade.
So in collaboration with the International Trade Center, the ministry hosted a consultative workshop to heighten awareness among business stakeholders on what's called non-tariff measures, NTMs.
Some of these NTMs are for legitimate purposes such as human, animal and plant health, environmental concerns, as well as security-related risks. In particular, developing countries like Jamaica are forced to comply with a wide range of technical regulations, product standards, and administrative procedures that frustrate our efforts at market access.
The private sector was empowered to identify and become more vigilant in monitoring, documenting, and reporting suspected use of such policy measures. In 2013, the Foreign Affairs Ministry was also determined to elevate Jamaica's relations with its diaspora. The 5th Biennial Jamaica Diaspora Conference laid the foundation for partnerships to realize tangible benefits from sustainable trade and investments.
There was a total of 240 meetings facilitated among 14 investors and 30 local projects. Out of that, 7 investors indicated that they were desirous of making equity investment in 17 projects and have requested additional information from these project owners.
A post-diaspora implementation council was established to ensure that recommendations and investments proposed at the conference come to fruition. A landmark diaspora policy was also developed during the year, and a national policy on international migration was submitted to Cabinet for consideration and approval. Among its many engagements in 2013, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade also facilitated visits to Jamaica from various foreign delegations. In April, Jamaica welcomed a member of the British royal family, His Royal Highness Prince Michael of Kent, who arrived to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the National Road Safety Council. The country later welcomed a working mission from Burkina Faso, led by the First Lady of the West African country, Her Excellency Chantal Compaoré. And in November, the President of Haiti, His Excellency Michel Martelly, engaged government on bilateral, regional, and multilateral issues during a 3-day state visit. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in 2013, maximizing Jamaica's growth and development objectives.
Did you know regular physical activity controls your weight, reduces your risk of cardiovascular diseases, reduces your risk for type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome, reduces your risk of some cancers, strengthens your bones and muscles, and increases your chance of living longer? Get active, get fit, stay healthy.
Ongoing coughing that produces a lot of mucus, shortness of breath, especially with physical activity, wheezing and tightness of the chest. It may not be asthma. Ever heard of COPD? That's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which tends to affect tobacco smokers. Get the facts now in today's HealthWise and find out about a research program underway to ascertain its prevalence in Jamaica.
Getting rid of and avoiding air-polluting actions like these are important ways in ensuring that we live healthier and longer lives. We'd be preventing life-altering conditions such as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD.
chronic obstructive pulmonary disease worldwide is recognized as a cause of significant, what we call disability adjusted life years. It means that it cuts you down, it causes early mortality, you die younger than you ought to. But what is more frustrating is that if you continue to live, it's the quality of life that you now enjoy is so tremendously affected by shortness of breath as a result of this chronic cigarette smoking.
If you are a tobacco smoker, were once a smoker, have been exposed to secondhand smoke and other air pollutants like chemical fumes and dust for a long time, you could be suffering from COPD. COPD is a condition where the airways are damaged, causing less air flowing in and out of the body when we breathe. A pulmonologist is a doctor who specializes in treating the resulting lung disorders. According to consultant pulmonologist at the University Hospital of the West Indies, the UHWI, Dr. Althea Akar Stewart, it is one of the leading tobacco-induced diseases, with common signs and symptoms including ongoing coughs that produce excess mucus, shortness of breath, especially when doing physical activity, wheezing, and tightness of the chest.
Unfortunately, it looks a lot like asthma. So you hear the patients coughing, they bring up a lot of cold in the mornings or sputum, and you say, oh, they wheeze and they are short of breath, and you think it's asthma, but it's not really asthma. What it is the beginning of the effects of cigarette smoke on the lung, and they have a condition which is called chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Your doctor can find out if you have COPD by checking to see how well your lungs are working through spirometry testing.
Now, spirometry is really very simple. What it's doing is asking you to breathe into a machine and looking at how quickly you can breathe the air out of your lungs.
COPD may cause no symptoms or mild symptoms at first, but as it progresses, it worsens and the symptoms usually become severe. The severity of your symptoms will depend on how much your lung has been damaged, and if you keep smoking, the damage will occur faster than if you stopped smoking. A severe case of COPD can cause symptoms such as swelling in the ankles, feet, or legs, and there is an increased risk of heart disease, cancer, and pneumonia.
The response that takes place in the lungs causes damage to the heart, to the bones, to the GI tract. It's a systemic disease.
Emergency care should be sought if one has difficulty breathing or talking, lips and fingers turn blue or gray, mental alertness is gone, and there is heart palpitations. What's the prevalence of COPD in Jamaica? Research was designed under a $20 million initiative dubbed the Burden of Obstructive Lung Disease BOLD project to determine this. The Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Pulmonary Research Group from the University of the West Indies, UA Department of Medicine, has made this their priority for an 8-month period beginning March 2014.
The study has actually been done in many other countries, and the data that has come out of this study has been useful to the different health planners in the countries.
Funding of the research is a joint effort of the National Health Fund and the UWI Principles Initiative Fund. It has been designed to garner statistics on the pervasiveness of COPD and examine the recurrent costs of doctors' visits, medication, and productive time lost and its impact on the economy. Data collected will form part of the worldwide data on COPD.
We think that this particular project will give us a lot of information to plan on how to look at the prevalence of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and to put health plans in place in our health system, which will only improve the quality of health care that we're able to provide for our country.
Significant focus is being placed on ensuring that youth are aware of the dangers of smoking. It has been asserted that once persons start smoking, they become addicted, and at that point, even for adults, choice is no longer an option.
My patients as a pulmonologist tell me that cigarette smoking can be very gratifying because nicotine is a highly addictive substance. Once it gets to the brain, and the dopamine is released, which causes the high, you feel at peace with the world. The problem with cigarette smoking is that while that feel-good comes, the effects or the damage come much later down the road.
COPD is not a contagious disease and it has no cure, at least not yet. Therefore, it's best to steer clear of cigarette smoke and other harmful lung irritants. However, if you have COPD, treatments and lifestyle changes can help you feel better, stay more active, and slow the progress of the disease. Wet hands with water. Apply enough soap to cover all hand surfaces. Rub hands palm to palm. Right palm over left dorsum with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Backs of fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked. Rotational rubbing of left thumb clasped in right palm and vice versa. Rotational rubbing backwards and forwards with clasped fingers of right hand in left palm and vice versa. Rinse hands with water. Dry hands thoroughly with a single-use towel. Use towel to turn off faucet. Your hands are now safe.
The National Water Commission stated recently that we would continue to experience dry conditions as a result of drought until about March. So water lockoffs will be a bit more than usual in order to conserve the precious commodity. We went out a road to hear how people are conserving on water. Hope you get some ideas.
Fix your pipes, don't let them leak, and recycle, reuse the water.
Make sure that the pipes are not leaking and things like that. And you use what you want, what the amount you want to use. Okay? And that you see that the children them don't waste it.
What I've stopped doing is I'm beginning to recognize that my teeth is just as clean if I don't keep the pipe running while I'm brushing. And I try my best, like if you're somebody who would wash twice a week or 3 times for the week, you try and see if you can consolidate and just do one wash. It's not only conservation, but it is economically the sensible thing to do.
I don't keep the water running while I'm brushing my teeth, stuff like that, yes. In the kitchen while I'm washing plates, I make sure I catch water on one side.
Try to use less unnecessary usage, like stuff that we don't really need that excess of water to do. And at the times when we're in the shower, like taking a bath and we're singing and things, stuff like that, you can cut out that as well and try to do what we're doing more quicker, be more efficient.
Make sure the tap is properly turned off and turn off the tank as well sometime when it's full. And when you're bathing, don't keep the water running when you're soaping up until you're ready to wash off.
I needed help to expand my business, but the banks only wanted to be up in my business. The high interest rates were killing my business. They're never really business with my business.
At the Exim Bank, we have your business needs covered. Our application process is easy, and we provide loans at competitive rates for the productive sector. From renewable energy projects and working capital to plant upgrades or expansion and export financing. Come in and talk to us today. The Exim Bank. On the road to success, you are going to want us in your business.
And that's it for Jamaica Magazine today. Trust you learned something and can impart that knowledge to someone else. We welcome your feedback, so drop us an email at jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. Keep a social media link by checking out our Twitter and Facebook pages seen on the screen. Plus, visit our website, jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production team at the JIS, I'm Audrey Williams. Do reflect on the words of our anthem as we close.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.